Alright guys, so starting with the screen, you need to put a little bit of 4B pencil on some scrap paper and use the edge to create a nice even kind of gradient with your 4B pencil. After you've done that, use your eraser and kind of swipe two diagonal lines to create a glass-like surface. I'm just going in with a grey marker now to highlight where the buttons are. You can use your grey pro marker. Feel free to use a ruler to make sure you can straighten any edges and lines and make it neat and tidy. Next step is I'm going through with my chosen colour for my base coat. So I'm going with a red marker. I'm using the little chisel tip edge and a ruler to make sure I get some nice straight edges, and also masking out some little highlight areas too so that I don't go over these with the marker. Just remember though, it's absolutely fine if you go outside the edges because we are going to be cutting this out at the end. Now, because we're trying to make this look real life and we're also trying to mimic this being plastic, in order for us to render something, we need to have a light source. So I am choosing the light source to be coming from the top left, meaning that everything on the right hand side is going to be a little bit darker. So I'm starting on the right hand side of the Game Boy so that I can allow that area time to dry and go through and do second and third coats on that right hand side. So here I am adding 2 and 3 coats of colour just to increase the darkness. Now you want to be really careful when you're rendering the surfaces. You want to follow the direction or the form of the shape. And you can see that I'm leaving little kind of highlight areas, just the white piece of paper. Now I've gone through and kind of masked out with my marker so I don't go over the buttons. And this is probably the hardest bit, is getting nice, clean, even lines, but avoiding the little fiddly buttons. So be careful there. You can always kind of use the point tip of the marker to do some of the finer details if you need. Next, I'm going to fill in the grey buttons with my grey pro marker, or I'm using a C3 copic marker. And then I'm going back in with my red base colour marker and just creating a little bit more depth with the buttons. Next step is adding some of the black kind of rubber looking details. Now you can use your fine line pen for this, or black marker, and it's also got a black frame around the glass screen. Be really careful when you are kind of taking your ruler away. You want to give it a bit of a clean the edges a little bit, otherwise you're going to swipe some marker colour onto other bits and pieces that you don't want to get black. Now this is kind of the stage where you are analysing, letting things dry and seeing where you can improve the tonal value. So you just saw I added a little bit more to the right hand side and a little bit more to that little curved bit in the middle that connects the, I guess, the controller bit to the screen where it folds in. Now I am just using a fine line pen to go around all the edges and just tidy up any little bits and pieces that I have missed, any edges as well. So fine line pen can really start to bring this to life a little bit more. Again, just be really careful that you wipe your set square or your ruler to not get any smudges all over your work, especially if your marker ink hasn't quite dried properly. So nice clean edges, and remember you're cutting it out, so it doesn't matter if you extend those lines a little bit further than you need them. The black fine line pen allows you to really tidy up some of your edges too. Next step, a black fine line pen, all of your buttons and details. Create a kind of 3D effect with your buttons by fine line penning the edges. And there's this little, I guess it's like a charging area, I'm not too sure. That's just to the right hand side, that's got a couple of little buttons inside. I'm just using a red fine line pen just to tidy up some of my edges. Now I'm going in with my favorite, which is a white gel pen. Now this really makes things pop and makes things look shiny and is going to make this look a lot more plastic looking. So I'm going in and putting fine white lines on some of the edges and just increasing some highlight areas that I might have accidentally gone over with my red marker. Now because it is plastic, it is quite shiny, and even though I'm putting a bit of white kind of on the darker side, light reflects on plastic everywhere. So just make sure you're paying careful attention to the exemplar that you have in front of you as well, because that's what I'm using as my guide. Now I'm going through with a white pencil, and I'm kind of adding to the highlights, but also I guess improving the tonal values of some areas, because some parts are not like high shine, like some parts look a little bit more matte. Like we put white over the black areas to kind of mimic more of a rubber dull texture. And I'm also putting a little bit of a white almost wash over the top surface. But I am actually going to go over and smooth it out with my red marker again. Now I'm adding a little bit of 4B pencil just to kind of create a little bit more depth. And I am going to go through with my marker again and kind of smooth that out so you don't see the shininess of the pencil. You can see I'm definitely going outside the edges here. But I guess it helps get rid of, like it stops you from seeing the actual marker strokes by putting that extra layer on. And you can see I've definitely created a little bit more depth in tone by adding the 4B and white pencil. I'm just going through and making those highlights pop. Edges. Actually forgot about those little green and red buttons that are to the right, so I had to put those in with my white gel pen. And now I guess this is where you get really fussy, and it's all about the details and going through and trying to make it look as good as possible. So color matching with the exemplar. I'm even putting a little bit of white just on the glass. The fussier you are, the better your final's going to look. So look at all the careful details. Where are all the highlights? Where is the light coming from? What can you add? These subtle details really make your rendering come to life. Now, on top of the black glass, I've just written Game Boy Advance. It's probably not even called that, but it'll do. I'm obsessed with white gel pens. They make everything better. A little bit of tidying up. I'm actually just adding my grey marker. That's a pro tip. Your grey marker on top of any base colour can help kind of enhance the tonal variation, I guess. Especially if you don't have like 4 different shades of red. You only have 1. So we're being thrifty. Now we cut it out. Get rid of all those little bits that have gone outside the edges by just cutting them off. How good is that? And once you have neatly cut out your awesome looking Game Boy, you want to get a new sheet of A3 paper and think about where you want to position it. And we are going to add a presentation box to make it pop and make it look completed. And normally you want to choose a nice complementary color. And remember, you don't have to fill the whole thing in and waste your markers. Just kind of outline what bits are going to be seen. I'm using this like haze blue, but it actually came up really purpley. And I realized about halfway through that it had definitely run out of ink, which was not fun, but we made it work. I'm just putting a few little extra diagonal lines in and a nice little black cast shadow to hide all the dodgy bits that I actually went outside the box. Now I'm going to reposition where I want my Game Boy to sit on top of the presentation box. And voila! You have finished your Game Boy. Thanks for watching.